everyone, it's Sylvia here from Casino Library and welcome to Tangles on Tuesday. In this series, we're going to take you through the process of creating beautiful art pieces known as Tangle.
Hello Tanglers, welcome back. It's Tuesday again and it's time for some new tangles. The first one that we're going to do this week is called Msst. Now Msst is a very light tangle, light looking. And if you need a space that just needs something really easy and simple, this is a really great tangle for that. Msst is made up of a series of wavy lines, and at the end of that line there are dots. I like to do my dots in odd numbers, so 3, 5, 7s. It just gives better balance. And the lines can be spaced close together, they can be wide apart, up to you. And it's just a really free looking, soft looking tangle, and it really is very effective. So the waves in the lines mimic each other as closely as you can get them, but then they don't have to. You can have lots of waves, you can just have a few waves, you can stretch them out or have them closer together. And what I like about this tangle is not only can it come from the top of a string or a space, but it can also work back the other way. So it doesn't necessarily have to come hanging down. You might decide you want to draw it coming up, or you might want to do it opposite ends and actually have them almost meeting. I've turned my page so that I can have my card and pen in a position that's comfortable for me, and I'm going to do it coming back the other way. So I said, depending on the space that you're working in, you could have quite wavy lines. You may have a looser wave, and just varying the length of each one is also where the interest is created with this tangle. Okay, so there you are. It looks good either way. This reminds me of a hanging vine or something weeping down. This reminds me of something under the ocean, whether it be a seaweed or a coral or something, and bubbles coming out of the top of it. It can be anything you want. I'll do some of it just in this section here to show you what it looks like when it's done from opposite. Well, sorry, when it's done opposite each other. It doesn't have to join, but just varying it out for a bit of fun. So there you are. That is such a simple, fun tangle. And again, feel free to play with the curves or the waves that you put into your line, because we will all do them differently, and that will give each tangle our own unique touch. So that one for you is Msst. Now the second tangle I'm going to show you is called Huggins. And Huggins is similar to Cadent, the tangle that we learnt early in the series. And Huggins is started the same way as Cadent, by doing rows of small dots or open circles, whichever you prefer, doing rows of them evenly spaced to form our grid. Whereas Cadence was done with the S shape line, Huggins is done with more of a C shape. So taking a look at that, I've done my grid to start, so my dots. So I did that using my 0.4. I'm now going to take my 0.1 and I'm going to commence by doing the letter C between these two dots here, missing that gap, and another one here. So every second space or gap will have the letter C facing the right way. So I'm going to do that just to start off. I find this a bit tricky to do upside down, so I will have to do it right way facing. It's just a gentle C shape. Like I've done there. Now I repeat that, missing this column here of dots and working on this one the same. The C shape on every second gap, facing the right direction. So the way you would normally draw the letter C. So that's what I have there. So the next step is with this column here, I'm drawing the letter C going backwards. So this one's going the right way, this one's going backwards. This one would be facing the right way, this one would be going backwards. So that's the sequence that you'll be doing. Facing forwards, facing back, facing forwards, facing back, and just repeating that sequence. So I'll just pop those in. Just a gentle curve, trying to match it to the curve that's already done, so that it looks like that. So we've got our C going forwards, the next one will go backwards. Our C going backwards, the next one will go forwards. And just repeating as we move along our row. So we'll take a look at that. And using your circles that we made initially as a guide for bringing that down and around. Okay, and just working your way along. Just remembering forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards. Okay, so we've got our columns. Now we're going to work across our rows. Now think of this set here. So our 1, 2, 3, 4 dots. So each part of the tangle is made up of, or is worked within the 4 dots. So here our C's are arcing out from the center, so that the ones we do top and bottom, we want them to come in. So working the opposite. So this set of C's are arching outwards. So these ones, top and bottom, are going to arch inwards. And it will still be that sequence of a backwards and a forward C. And repeating that backwards and a forwards. So let's work those in. So backwards, working with our circle so that the C comes out and around and tucks back in. This one will start at the top of the circle, slight arc and tuck in around the back of this one. Okay, so you can see that forming up. So my next set is 1, 2, 3, 4. My 2 C's are arching inwards, so these ones are going to arch outwards. So they're going to start here and come up, out and tuck in. It's going to start here, come out and tuck in. So let's just work those in. So again, I've got my forward facing C, my back facing C. So you can see that's coming together really well. Okay, so these two were arching outwards, which means these ones come in. These two arch out, these two come in. This is our next set of 4. These ones are arching out, these ones are going to arch in. So it's still repeating that sequence. Backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Okay, so that top row is now complete. So it's almost hard now to see where we first started out because they look like they're weaving it as such an effective tangle. But we did our forward facing, back facing, forward facing, back facing C. With our top row, we've got our backwards facing, forward facing, backwards facing. So you're just following that sequence. Backwards facing, forwards facing, backwards facing. So it just keeps repeating. So my next row will be through here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 dots making up this section. I've got 2 C's arching inwards, the top's arching out, and the bottom will arch out, which marries up because this one is arching in, this one is arching in, but this is my backwards facing, forwards facing, backwards facing, forwards facing. Okay, just remembering that, and you won't get yourself into trouble if you can just remember that. Forwards facing, backwards facing. So this one is forwards facing. My next pair of dots will be backwards facing, forwards facing. So you can see that there. It's so simple, so effective. When you break down the tangles, it can almost be hard to see where we started out with our dots first and then doing these C's across and down, and it does look like it's weaving. It's really amazing. So starting at the top, we had one forward facing, backwards facing, forward facing, backward facing. Let's pop that in. So forward facing and backwards facing. Look at that. So just this set here to go. So I've got backwards facing, forwards facing. My next set will be backwards, and this one will be forwards. So let's pop that in. Okay, so backwards facing, forwards facing. This one will be backwards facing. This one will be forward facing. And look at that. We've done it. That is Huggins. As I said, very similar to Cadent. Starting out with your grid made up of circles, and I prefer to make my circles a little bit larger because it then gives me a better guide for when I'm working my next stroke in, my C stroke, using the top of the circle as a guide for coming at the top and starting and wrapping it back in at the bottom, and then just remembering. So working forwards facing, backwards facing, forwards facing, backwards facing, and the same as you go across the top. So this set of arching outwards, these ones are going to arch inwards. So backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, and just repeating that sequence. That is such a fun tangle. So that's Huggins for you. It does lend itself to some shading if you wish to. Grab my pencil. We could shade the underside of that arch, the undersides, so here and here, here. I'll pop just a little bit of shading in to show you, because that would be the shadow, so that would be the underside, casting a bit of a shadow wherever you feel that you would like to add that in. And then the blending tool, just to push that around. Remember, not too much pencil to start. You can always add more, but you can't take it away. Well, you could rub it out, but we say there's no rubbers or erasers when it comes to Zentangle, because there are no mistakes. Okay, so let's just add a little bit on those ones. It's just very light pencil, not pressing heavily at all. Just working that in, just blending. Oh, missed one there. There you go. That adds some extra interest and highlight. And again, I could do the same. A little bit of shadow where it's arching here and here to give it some extra interest. I'll just do that on there to show you. Just blending it, pushing that pencil around with your blending tool, your paper stump. Okay, so there you are. That one is Huggins, a really fun tangle. So this is a challenge that I left you last week. It was to have a go at doing a bookmark, and this is the string that I suggested. This is how mine ended up. These two lines here, or those two string lines, I used to start off with onomatopoeia. And then I was looking at this triangle section here that was left, and also this section here, which is here, and I decided to bring in my betweed. And from there it started to remind me of a fishtail, with the betweed looking a little bit like scales. Then I decided that in the areas just outside of that, so here, and working up this space here, I decided to do my knight's bridge. Just something a little bit playful. And then when I looked at these areas here, these two loopy areas, in the bottom section I decided to use that and create my squid tangle. And from there I have my Indirella, which to me reminds me of fish swimming out of the batweed as if it was a seaweed in the ocean, and then coming out from there. With the section at the top, I decided to work printemps in part of my loop area here, because it reminds me of the tiny little shells you sometimes see in rock pools. And then here I decided to bring in some of my flux and just bring it around, just to give a bit of softness. So it really is open to interpretation. It's anything you want it to be, but that's what I came up with when I had a go at the bookmark challenge. I'd love to see what you came up with, so don't be shy. Please load your bookmarks in the comments below. Show us what you've been creating. So this is your challenge tile for this week. Nice, simple. I've given you a square area in which to practice your Huggins that we've learnt this week, and working in the Msst tangle somewhere there. Nice and simple. Have a go, and don't be afraid to share your Zentangle tiles with us. We really would love to see what you're creating out there. So please feel free to load them in the comments below.
In the comments below, you'll find a link to the practice sheet that I've been using here today. You'll also find a link to this week's challenge tile. If you're unable to access these from your computer at home, we'll make some packs available. All you have to do is give us a call on 666 00 250 and give us a day or two to get those ready for you. That pack will also include some pre-cut 3.5 by 3.5 inch tiles to get you started. And remember, if you'd like to receive instant updates when new content is added to our YouTube channel, please click the subscribe button. Thanks for joining us here today, and we'll see you next week for another Tangles on Tuesday.